Is death truly the end, or just a change in form? It's a question that has haunted human beings for thousands of years. For some, death marks the final silence. But for others, it's not the end, it's a transition. From children recalling past lives to people clinically dead recounting vivid journeys beyond the veil, the evidence is mounting. Death may not be as final as we think. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most profound mysteries of existence. What really happens when we die? Is death the end, or just a change in form? Section 1. The chilling case of Andrew Lucas. Andrew Lucas was just 4 years old when he began to cry uncontrollably, and asked his mother, "Why did you let me die in the fire?" Michelle, his mother, was stunned. What fire? What death? As she asked him more questions, Andrew started sharing strange, precise details. He claimed he was a U.S. Marine. He remembered names of fellow soldiers. And he said he died in an explosion. On a TV show called Ghost Inside My Child, Andrew was shown photos of several military men. Without hesitation, he pointed to one. "That's me." It was a photo of Sergeant Val Lewis, a real U.S. Marine who died in the 1983 Beirut barracks bombing. Andrew later visited Sergeant Lewis' grave. His reaction? Emotional, familiar, unexplainable. There was no way his family could have known about Lewis. Andrew was too young, too unaware to fake such a vivid story. And yet, he knew. Section 2. Reincarnation cases backed by science. Andrew's story isn't unique. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist from the University of Virginia, spent decades studying more than 2,500 cases just like his. Children, usually between ages 2 and 6, spontaneously recalling memories of another life. Names, cities, relatives, even how they died. In many cases, their statements were verified. These memories often faded by age 7, almost like something in the growing brain erased them, or perhaps buried them. Is it possible these memories are real? And if so, what does that say about death? Section 3. The physics of consciousness, Einstein and energy. Albert Einstein once said, "Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be changed from one form to another." So if consciousness is a form of energy, does it simply transform after death? And if so, into what? Section 4. Pamela Reynolds in the near-death experience. One of the most famous cases of near-death experience, or NDE, was Pamela Reynolds. During a complex brain surgery, doctors stopped her heart. Her brain activity flatlined. Her body temperature dropped to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. She was clinically dead, yet Pamela later described floating above her body. She recounted conversations between doctors. She identified surgical tools accurately, things she couldn't possibly have known. She also described a tunnel, a bright light, and an overwhelming sense of peace. This wasn't a random hallucination. It happened when her brain was completely offline. Scientists still can't fully explain it. Section 5. Are NDEs just brain glitches? Critics argue that near-death experiences are just the brain under stress, caused by a lack of oxygen. But here's the catch. Hypoxia-induced hallucinations are usually chaotic and terrifying. But near-death experiences? They are ordered, peaceful, profound. People return from them changed, with reduced fear of death, and a deepened sense of meaning. Section 6. Consciousness beyond the brain? Dr. Bruce Grayson, one of the leading NDE researchers, has found that many of these experiences happen while the brain is inactive. This challenges materialism, the idea that consciousness comes from the brain. What if the brain doesn't produce consciousness, but rather receives or filters it? This idea, called the receiver theory, changes everything. It means brain receives signal from the universe we call consciousness. Section 7. Philosophical and ancient insights. Philosopher David Chalmers calls it the hard problem of consciousness. How does subjective experience arise from neurons and chemicals? Despite all our technology, we still don't know. Physicist Roger Penrose believes consciousness isn't just logic, it might involve quantum processes. And long before modern science, ancient traditions had already explored this. Hinduism and Buddhism teach that consciousness is eternal, migrating through lives in a cycle of rebirth. Deep meditation, ego dissolution, psychedelic research, they all hint at the same thing. Our individual identity may be more fluid than we think. Time, space, even self, might be illusions. Section 8. Death as awakening. If you've ever had a vivid dream, you know how real it feels until you wake up. So, how can we be sure this life is the real one? Maybe death isn't the end of the dream, but the moment we wake up from it, into another reality, another self, another form. Conclusion. So, is death the end? Or is it a doorway? Andrew Lucas's past life, Pamela Reynolds' journey through clinical death, Ancient philosophies, modern physics, personal awakenings, they all point to one possibility. Death is not the end, it's a transformation. And if consciousness truly transcends the brain, then perhaps we never really die. We simply change form. If this video amazed you, subscribe to my channel for more content like this.